Hi, I am Michiel Mulders and I'll be your host to explain how to use payment outputs on mintBlue. To send a payment output, we need to prepare the outputs array. Next, we can send the transaction to the mintBlue platform for final storage on the Bitcoin blockchain. And finally, I want to verify my payment transaction via the mintBlue console to make sure the transaction has been successful. So, what is a payment output? A payment output allows to send a payment to either a PayMail address or a Bitcoin SV address string. A payment address allows for an easier identity service, essentially creating an email address for users to send and receive BSC from. Further, payment outputs also requires a Satoshis property containing an integer defining the amount of Satoshis that will be sent to the respective recipient. The Satoshi is the smallest denomination of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. It's equivalent to 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. Alright, let's get coding. Here you can see the payment output interface. It requires three properties: type, to, and Satoshis. The mandatory type property should be set to payment as we are sending a payment output. Further, the to field accepts a PayMail address or a Bitcoin SV address string. And finally, you can send as many Satoshis as you want to the receiver. Make sure to enter an integer for this field. Now, let's look at the code example showing how to create payment outputs using a mintBlue transaction. Okay, first let's create our index.js file. And let's copy the base code from the SDK Getting Started tutorial. This will be the base code from which we will build up our payment output how-to guide. First, let's define our outputs array. It contains one object, which is our type payment. And then we have to define the receiver address. Let's just copy a random Bitcoin SV address string and let's send this user 1000 Satoshis. So now we have defined our outputs array. It's time to send the transaction to the mintBlue platform for final storage on the Bitcoin SV ledger. Let's use the client object to create a new transaction, which accepts an object which contains a project ID and our outputs array. And finally, I want to log the transaction ID to the console with the What's on Chain link. So I have added the SDK token and the project ID, so now we can execute our code using the node command to execute our index.js file, and it will print the What's on Chain link to the terminal if everything goes well. As a last step, let's verify if the transaction has been included. Let's go to the Projects tab and go to our Payment Output project or whatever you named the project, and let's go to the Transactions tab. It includes one transaction, which is a payment output, and you can view it here. If you go down, you can see we've sent a payment to the address starting with 1F, and we have sent 1000 Satoshis. Below you can also see another payment output, which is a change output from mintBlue, and you can safely ignore this output. Thank you for completing the how-to guide. You can find the full code at the bottom of the how-to page. If you want to learn more, check out the how-to guides for the other output types. Learn how to combine outputs and take a look at example applications to get a feel of how to implement mintBlue into real projects.